Hello and welcome to Liverpool News Daily. I'm Tom Beattie and I'm here with Ben Botchach. Obviously we're reacting to all the big news stories of today to do with Liverpool. And there's a few on our list as well, which I think are obviously going to have a lot of people talking about them as well. Let's get straight into it. Obviously, I think the big one, particularly going off the back of Brighton's win last night against Manchester United, is obviously that James Milner looks set to depart Liverpool after 8 years. What do you think on that, Ben? Obviously, he's been a great servant for Liverpool, but it does look as though he seems to be on his way.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what a win for Brighton to obviously keep Liverpool's Champions League hopes alive. I still think it's unlikely, but that victory definitely helps Liverpool
Yeah.
to sort of get there, and hopefully it's a bit of what's the opposite of a moral booster for Manchester United, a bit of a moral demoralization or demoralize it. I can't say it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the case. I mean, Ten Hag looked pretty irked on the sidelines, and it must hurt them a lot to concede so late on.
Yeah.
United are normally used to getting penalties and decisions like that at the other end, and getting it against them. So that was refreshing. But in terms of Milner, I mean, I think this summer is the right time for him to leave. I don't necessarily. I mean, I can see a small case for him to be made because so many midfielders are already set to depart Liverpool. So I can see a small bit of a case for him. But with Curtis Jones coming through, I mean, he's done really well in the last few games. Harvey Elliott hasn't been able to feature as much because of Jones's performances. I think there's still enough midfield options for Liverpool to deal with Milner's sort of departure. And in terms of Brighton, I mean, it's an interesting move. I mean, Lallana did the same thing a few years ago, going from Liverpool to Brighton on a free transfer. So maybe Milner just wants to join an old friend, but it's also an exciting team, and I hope they do get European football next season because I think they deserve it based on how good they've been throughout the whole season. Obviously, still lots of games to go, but I do hope Brighton are in Europe next season. Hopefully, not to the detriment of Liverpool as well, because they are kind of catching up with us as well, even though we celebrated that victory because United lost, but now Brighton are sort of catching up as well. So I think for Brighton is a good fit for Milner. I don't see him playing a lot. I think his role is probably going to be similar to the one he did at Liverpool. But in terms of Brighton, they're getting a really experienced, versatile player, and in terms of Liverpool, I think they can say goodbye to a sort of cult hero at Anfield, who was a great servant for many years.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be one of the best ever free transfers, I think, not just for Liverpool, but I think possibly in the Premier League in terms of obviously what he's won. And I think just setting that culture at the club as well of setting the standards. And I think, like you say, I think he will be missed, but possibly it is the right time for him to move on as well. Obviously, Liverpool have been linked with quite a few Brighton players, I think, in the past recent months anyway. And Alexis McAllister seems to be the big one. Potentially he could be one who ends up going the other way at some point this summer as well. But another transfer target who I think every Liverpool fan will have heard of by now is Sporting Lisbon's Manuel Ugarte. And there's been a bit of a development in sort of the saga there, if you like. Apparently, the midfielder's reportedly given a green light to sign for the Reds in the summer. So obviously, he's one of a host of midfield names who've been linked with Liverpool, Ben, and doing the job that we do. We've heard his name come up time and time again. I think we've both written pieces on it. So what are kind of your thoughts around this potential transfer?
I mean, I think it would be a great transfer. I don't want to brag, but I kind of spotted him early on when it was evident that Liverpool needed a holding midfielder. So last summer, I was kind of looking at under the radar options, and at that point, he hadn't played a lot of games, was just breaking through at Sporting Lisbon last season.
Yeah.
But already, based on the small sample, I could see a tremendous player in there, someone who exactly the type of player Liverpool needs. So I wrote an article about him on Liverpool.com and why he would be a good fit. And I think this season he's gone on to kind of prove me right. He's done really well. And he just ticks so many boxes for Liverpool in terms of his defensive ability. He reads the game exceptionally well. He's so good in 1v1 challenges, but he's also good on the ball. He's good at progressing it. He's kind of pressure resistant. He does loads of things well, and he's kind of the complete holding midfielder.
Definitely.
And for me, if Liverpool are looking at, I think Liverpool do need to be looking at that holding midfield option. Fabinho has done better, and I think he's improving. He's kind of getting back to where you want him to be at. But I think lessons should be learned from his sort of dip in form, and I wouldn't call it a decline, just a dip in form at the moment. Of, you know, Liverpool can't rely on him forever. Liverpool can't rely on him all the time. I mean, they had to rush him back to the Champions League final, and I still think there's no backup option for him. I mean, we saw Bajcetic emerge, but for me, Bajcetic is more of a number 8 type of option. I see him more on the right side or the left side of midfield rather than the holding midfield position. So I do think it's imperative for Liverpool, as much as I think it's imperative for Liverpool to get that box-to-box midfielder, that creative outlet. I think it's also imperative for Liverpool to get that holding midfielder in. And I think Ugarte is the right fit. He's kind of the right age. I think born in 2001, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's still really young. Obviously, it helps he's Uruguayan. I mean, Uruguayans tend to do well at Liverpool. We've seen Suarez, even Coates. I mean, he'll be remembered for that worldie he scored against QPR. So, Uruguayans do.
It's a mate for Nunes as well, hopefully, which is
exactly.
Klopp's obviously spoke about Nunes needing to learn the language and that sort of thing, and I think that's obviously more for the tactical instructions, I'd imagine, in the dressing room. But I think it will possibly do him good to have an international teammate there with him as well, just to give him that helping hand, I think, to just kind of settle in. And he's obviously got his first season under his belt now as well, which so that bodes well from that point of view as well, I think.
I mean, it's a similar case with Coates coming in to Liverpool and kind of being best buddy to Suarez. Although I think if Ugarte were to come in, I do think he would play a lot more than Coates, and he'd probably be a lot better as well. But I think it would be a nice sort of link up in terms of the Uruguayan connection as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that we're being heavily linked with him, to be honest, because obviously FBref is a bit of a crutch for people like us, obviously. And when you look at his stats on there, I mean, he's a real standout, isn't he, in terms of his passing, his ability off the ball as well. And like you say, I think he could really fit into the style of play under Klopp as well. And like you've also mentioned, that the kind of the issues with Fabinho this season, it has been more of a drop in form, like you say. But possibly you can trace this back to last summer, where we were linked with Tchouaméni. Obviously, he went to Real Madrid in the end. But maybe the signs were there then. The Klopp was possibly looking to, in the long term at least, replace Fabinho. Maybe it would have been a similar scenario to, other transfers which have happened, where you kind of have the mainstay still there to kind of almost, teach the understudy in a way the role, as has happened with Gakpo and Firmino, for example. So I wouldn't have been particularly against that. And I think possibly Klopp's hand has been forced a little bit, I think, due to Fabinho's form this season. So yeah, I think when you look at Ugarte, he does seem to be the kind of player we should be targeting, I think. And, that you look at sort of how well players have done as well in the Premier League coming from Sporting Lisbon. I mean, it does seem to be that league in particular, it does seem to produce the right kind of footballers, really. And, it's a market that, Liverpool have tapped into in the past with the likes of Luis Diaz as well. It's a great success. So all the boxes seem to be ticked a little bit, I think, which is really promising.
Yeah, I think as well, like what stats and FBref doesn't show is just how much ground he covers and the kind of energy he brings to the team as well, which is so crucial because I think a lot of the times this season Liverpool have lacked that energy, and only recently has it come back, and you see how vital that is for Liverpool to play well. I think Jones brings a lot of that energy into that Liverpool midfield now, and I think Ugarte is someone who can do that. Obviously, similar sort of different sort of profile, different assets, but he can that energy. He can lift Liverpool's sort of midfield runners, and he just covers so much ground, and that's what I also like about him, and I think that's why he's such a good fit.
Definitely, and I think something you mentioned there. I mean, it's all about the intensity, isn't it? Really, and that's something that Klopp obviously really looked for in a player. And I think we have kind of lost that at points this season, and I think that's definitely been to our detriment at times. And I kind of think that through making this signing, it might be a case of kind of adding that intensity back into the group, particularly in that position, which I think is constantly evolving as well. Obviously, with Trent moving into that inverted fullback position, it does kind of change the role a little bit at the moment for Fabinho, but any potential incoming transfer as well. So, obviously it's a bit of an interesting time probably to be joining Liverpool in some ways, but you do see the seeds of kind of something growing already. I think particularly over the past 5 or 6 games as well. So, things are starting to look good for Liverpool, I think. Just kind of the final item, which is a bit more of a fun one. But I'm sure you saw earlier today the new Liverpool home kit was being launched. Will obviously go on sale, I think, a little bit later on in the year, I'd imagine. But yeah, that's the kit, I think, is inspired by the kits of the early 70s, and it's got a real kind of retro look, and I think it does really fit well with the history of the club, and it looks really smart, doesn't it, to be fair?
Yeah, personally, I love it. I think the photo shoot as well was very 70s, like you said, as well. There's some iconic pictures in there already that I'm sure we'll be hopefully using in the season to come. But I think it's one of the best home kits in a while for Liverpool. Probably the best on the Nike, I think. I don't know if people would disagree with me on that. I mean, it's a football shirt, so everyone has their taste. But for me, I think it's the best Nike has produced, and I really like it. When I saw rumors of it, it didn't seem as good, but now that I've seen it on the players and seen it, not
it's always the way,
very,
isn't it? Yeah.
It looks really good now, and I credit to the photo shoot as well. Like the photographer who took it, he really embellished the features and made it look really good. So I'm excited to see Liverpool wear that kit rather than this kind of plain one that they've been wearing this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously as well, like you touched upon, the video was fantastic. So I'm sure all the supporters will be keen to see that as well. And I noticed kind of midway through, Ian Callaghan was there. So obviously the top appearance holder still holds that record to this day, doesn't he? So, it's nice to see Liverpool kind of, fitting in the past with kind of the present as well. I thought that was a lovely touch from Liverpool as well.
Yeah, and obviously that kit is inspired by the kit that he kind of made famous as well under Bill Shankly. So it was very fitting for him to be included in that. Yeah, it was just cool. I mean, to be fair, Liverpool's kit releases do tend to be quite cool in general. I mean, I remember the one after we won the Premier League. In that side of things, credit to the club. They do go full out, and it's really impressive all the time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that probably brings us to a close, I think, Ben, unless there's anything else you want to add. I think we've probably covered everything there.
Yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Yeah, no worries. Well, that's about it from me as well. So yeah, obviously, thanks a lot for watching, and I think we'll see you sometime next week, the pair of us. So yeah, thanks for watching, and up the Reds.